vendors. Okay. I have a lot of YouTube videos about QuickBooks Online. So I have a channel that you can watch Excel and QuickBooks Online tutorials. It's just Steve Chase 1 will be how you can find me online. And I also own Sequentia Solutions as well, which we help folks pretty much get peace and clarity and freedom in their bookkeeping as well. And that involves training and doing workshops like this. So I'm happy to be with you today. And I think this is probably my 5th or 6th session with Launch SA before COVID, and it's always fun to be able to do these share some knowledge with other business owners. And one thing is you just sleep a lot better at night when you feel like your accounts are reconciled and you can actually produce a true profit and loss report that's true income that you made and expenses. It just is a challenge for many small business owners to do. So that's kind of how Sequentia Solutions came about, is helping folks get their bookkeeping in order. All right, so how it's going to work today is I'm just going to share some slides, and then we're going to jump into a QuickBooks demo account, and you can watch along and we'll have it. Questions at the end. Certainly we'll have Q&A at the end. Okay, so if you don't get your question answered before, do that. So what I like to do is start off and talk about the different versions of QuickBooks Online. There's 4 different subscriptions, and each subscription has different features. I'm going to look at the chart of accounts. That's really the most important thing, is setting up your chart of accounts so that things are going to be accurately reported on your financials. We have a product and service list. So depending on your business, you might need to create a very detailed list of products and services that you offer. And some businesses, you might not really need to do that. If you have an online presence and revenues come into your bank account through like Shopify or Stripe, there's a lot of customizations you can do. So, but I want to share with you how product and services will be mapped to your chart of accounts. We're going to look at your vendor list and your customer list, super important. If you want to track reports to show how much money you're spending, we can do that by vendors, and how much money you're receiving, we do that with our customer list. Bank feeds, the most important, by far the #1 feature in QuickBooks Online, I think, is the bank feeds. We have banks that will download your transactions for review and categorizations every day, from all the major banks to the small credit unions to all the credit cards. And so it's super important that you are using the technology to help you with your bookkeeping. Every month you want to reconcile your bank account, and you should be, as a business owner, you should be getting those statements. So important to prevent fraud is that you're looking at a bank statement every single month, and you're looking at every single transaction that was in and out. As you grow, sometimes you kind of neglect that, and it's so important that you get in the habit of doing that. Whether you're the primary bookkeeper or not, the business owner definitely needs to have their eyeballs looking at every single credit card statement that you get, any line of credits you have, loans, account statements, all of that, super important. Because if you're not doing bank reconciliations in QuickBooks Online every month, you really are not in the best position to report and rely on your reporting. So notice reports is last. The reports really are the final step after you've set up the chart of accounts, customer vendor list, recorded all the transactions, then you can have the reports out there. Okay. All right, so there are 4 different versions of QuickBooks Online. The amount that you pay is going to go up for each one. So Simple Start, Essentials, Plus, and Advanced. And I've got a cheat sheet here that I wanted to share with you guys here. At the end, Daniel, I'll share the link to the PowerPoint so that folks can get these links and all that in these resources, if that's helpful to them.
Great, thank you.
So basically, right off the bat, how many users do you have? So, it's important that you're not sharing usernames and passwords with others. It's so important that you don't you have a QuickBooks Online account and then you share your password with 2 or 3 people on your team. You do not want that. You want to have the ability to hit a switch to turn on or off any user access to your financials. So as you grow in your subscription, you get more licenses, if you will. Okay. Every version has 2 accountant versions. So it's nice when at the end of the year, your accountant can log into your QuickBooks and see the data and pull that for the tax returns. So with the exception of 3, if you're on QuickBooks Online Advanced. So I'll let you guys kind of glance through here. One of the new features I think is spectacular is this one right here. I highlight in row 14 because this is really has been a game changer with accounts payable. You can create a bill inside QBO, and then you can pay the bill all without leaving QuickBooks Online. You just have to link your bank account to the accounts. Melio will send your vendor a direct deposit or a paper check, and you can choose whichever preference that you want. At the moment, it's included in the service, so there's no additional fee to pay somebody for that feature. Who knows, down the road they might charge for every payment you make, but right now it's free. Okay, so it's a great feature there. Let's see some other things here. When it comes to reporting, class and location tracking is a special feature that allows you to have extra dimensions on the data. So, if you're a small business owner and you really need, and you've got sales commissions that you give, every invoice could be tied to a commissions sales staff member or team member. We can have some class tracking on that. All right. Okay, so that is that. Let me come back to the PowerPoint. Okay, let's kind of do a 5-second history tour. Lucas Pacioli. Lucas Pacioli gets credit for setting up the bookkeeping double entry system. And when we say double entry accounting, it's basically every transaction is going to have equal debit and credit. So it's just amazing that this guy here designed the accounting system that we use today when we say our accounts are balanced and we have our assets equaling our liabilities plus our owner's equity. We can credit this man here, Lucas Pacioli, for designing the accounting system that helped the Venetians that would go out and sell their goods on the ships and such, and keep track of it all in a general ledger by hand. And so, boy, things have changed now. Instead of recording everything manually, we now have the computer that can help us speed enter our data and so forth. So when it comes to QuickBooks Online, on day 1, you really should be in a position of setting up your chart of accounts. It's basically the blueprint of the house. Everything has a place to go. It's the kitchen, it's the bedroom, it's the bathroom. And there are 5 main accounts that QuickBooks has, and all of accounting has. And the ones on the left, assets, liabilities, equity, those are all going to be reported on your balance sheet. And the ones on the right are your revenue and expenses, and those are significant as well. And we can create custom chart of accounts. Well, of course, when we sign up for QuickBooks Online, it asks you for your industry that you're in, and then it will kind of design a chart of accounts based on that option you chose and what tax structure you are. If you chose S corporation or sole proprietor, QuickBooks will generate the equity around that. But once you've got the chart of accounts, you can inactivate items that are no longer necessary for you, and you can create new items as well. Okay, so I'm going to jump into a test drive account here, and this test drive account is helpful if you want to follow along here. Let me just drop in a link real quick here. In the chat, post that here, or if you Google QBO test drive, you'll be able to find it as well. Here we are. It is a design and landscaping services business here. All right. So the first tour I'd like to take you to is, I'd like to take you to the chart of accounts right off the bat. And we can get there a number of different ways. One way is through the gear icon. And there'll be an option here under your company. You'll see chart of accounts. That's definitely one way. Another way would be over on the left-hand side, accounting. And there'll be just click on accounting, and we'll be in a position to take a look at our chart of accounts. All right, the first thing you might notice is these little icons here. That means that these accounts here are linked to the bank that it is coming from. So MasterCard, for example, we've got a live connection. So every time you spend money on MasterCard, you log into QuickBooks and you'll see those transactions, and it will report the date, the dollar amount, and the bank memo. And it's really powerful that with a click of a button, you could code it on, oh, I bought tickets to Southwest Airlines. I could code it to travel, and just boom, it's in the books without having to type in that. So it's going to really speed up your entry. So you definitely want to be linking all of your bank accounts and credit cards to QuickBooks Online. Notice that we see the type here. So bank accounts, assets, fixed assets, credit card accounts, liabilities, equity. And then we're getting into some income accounts here. And we keep going down. We got cost of goods sold. So what is cost of goods sold? Cost of goods sold is a purchase you're making that's part of a sale. So it could be direct materials. It could also be technician labor. Cost of goods sold is a very important measurement that a business will have. It will help you produce the gross profit. So just kind of keep your eyes on this. If you do have cost of goods sold, notice it comes right after income to get you your gross profit. It's super important here to know. Basically, cost raw materials, freight, shipping charges, direct labor costs. That's your cost of goods sold. So basically, do you need it to win a sale? It's cost of goods sold. If something that's not cost of goods sold would be your lease. You pay it every month. Doesn't matter if you have 1 customer or 1,000 customers, you're still going to be on the hook to pay that rent. So that would be just a general expense. That's the difference here. And as you see all these expenses here, equipment rental. Now, sometimes equipment rental could be a cost of goods sold. So you'll kind of have to work with your accountant, try to set this up here, but we're starting to see these are our chart of accounts, okay? So question, how do you create a chart of accounts? Let's say I want to keep track of Facebook advertising, very specific, and I want to keep track of Google ad spend. I could put everything into advertising and expenses, or I could create a very specific account here. The way you would do that is you would go up in the upper right-hand corner and click New. Okay. When you do that, you got to make sure that when you select the account type, if I was setting up a new advertising account, I would come down and choose expenses. All right. So that would be how that goes in there. And then I would just give it a detail type. And for the name, I can create the name of it, such as Facebook ads. If I wanted to make my Facebook ad spend associated with a sub account, I could come in here and make it a sub account of. It just depends on how detailed you want. It's not necessary to have sub accounts unless you think it would be helpful. The benefit of having sub accounts is you get a subtotal for that. Okay. So that's how you create a expense account. Let's say I just got a line of credit and to take out 10K for a line of credit. Well, I would need to go up and create new. A line of credit is I owe the bank that, so it's a liability. So the difference between other and long-term, other is plan to pay it off less than a year. Long-term liability, you plan to pay it off over 12 months here. So there are opportunities there for other current liabilities, so forth. So other current liabilities, line of credit. I might add the last 4 digits or so at the end of it to do that. All right. Let me show you how to set up a bank account. So it's just new. Let's say I go out. I have a bank account. It's a checking account. I write the bank name. Imagine it's Frost, and the last 4 digits are 1544. That will just help us when we reconcile the statements. We have an indication here. Okay. All right. That's chart of accounts here. If you want to run a report, this is helpful to see all of them in one shot. A lot easier to read it. It's nice because it's broken down by the types here. Okay, the desktop version didn't have detail types, but the QuickBooks Online does. You just have to pick it to the best of it, but these won't show up anywhere on a financial report. And any report that you do can be sent to Microsoft Excel. If it was easier to look at it in Excel, you could do that. Okay. All right. So the second thing I want to talk about is the products and services. And we have, every time you create an invoice, there's going to be a drop down for a product or service. And here's an example of the different products and services that we have. So some companies might have 2 or 3, some might have 50. It just really depends on how detailed you want it to be. So if I wanted to sell pest control, I could do that here. And notice a couple things happen. A default description populates here. I could change it as I needed. A default rate appears as well. This would be how we create a, this is a product or service that populates here like that, okay? I'm gonna X out of here, not save it. This is how I can get out of here. It'll ask, do I wanna save it? Do you wanna leave? Yeah, I wanna leave. Yeah. Okay, so the products and services is set up by clicking on the geared icon. And then there's a list. Right here we have a list, and it says products and services. All right. Okay, so from here, notice how things are kind of set up here. We have categories, and we have these landscaping category, fountain categories. And I'll just go ahead and edit the gardening one. I'm going to go all the way to the right and click edit, kind of show you the setup here. So first we have a name. Optionally, you have the ability to do a SKU. If you wanted a unique tracking ID, that's where that would go. You can put something in a category. The benefit is that when you run a report, you could see how much percentage of landscaping sales did we do as opposed to design. You know, all of these categories will be generated like a pivot table and grouped and show you the dollar amounts that you sold it within that category. And you have the ability here. Now, for those of you that have to charge sales tax with the Texas Comptroller, you would need to set up Texas Comptroller sales tax. QuickBooks will guide you through setting up your tax liability account. Once you do that, then you would have another box that you could check. Yes, I tax this item, or no, I don't. And that is just the default. And you know, if it's somebody out of state, you could interchange and not charge tax if somebody's out of state, depending on your nexus thresholds and all that. Okay. All right, I'm going to X out of here. Let's learn how to create a new product service from scratch. Well, like the chartered account, there's a new button in the upper right hand corner, and this is how you would create a brand new product or service. So step 1, click that. You'll be asked inventory. Inventory tracking is quantities of inventory you have. You have to be on Plus or Advanced to have that feature. Non-inventory, stuff you don't need to track inventory on. Service would be anything that you're doing here. That's a service. And the last one is a bundle. If you want to roll 2 or more products into one bundle, like a gift basket that equals fruit, cheese, and wine, you create a bundle. So, all right, so let's say I sell consulting services, non-taxable consulting services. I would select service, and then I would give it a name. Okay, no SKU necessary. I would give it a category if there was a category. I'll put it part of the design. This is my default text, which could be anything or blank. This is my default price. So if the price changes quite a bit, leave it blank. I'll just put in 1,000 just to show you how that works. And then when you run your profit and loss statement, how would you like it to show up in the profit and loss report? So a profit and loss statement is going to be needed for your tax returns. It's also going to be needed for your if you're taking out a loan, want to borrow money from a bank, they're going to need to see that, especially if you don't have a W-2 wage, because your primary source of income is your company's business. It's also a great tool to guide the company for making decisions. And it also helps you with just, possibly down the road selling your business. Any prospective buyer is going to want to see your profit and loss over the years. Okay, so service A, B, and C, and product A here is coming through here. You get to decide for the income account how you'd like that to go in. So this is where I work with a lot of small business owners, and they kind of get stumbled here. It's like, wait a minute, do I really want to show all those product service on the profit and loss? Sometimes no is the right answer. Sometimes yes, maybe is the right answer. What I'm trying to explain is that this name here is what goes on the invoice. This name here is what shows up on the financial statement for internal purposes only. Your customer doesn't need to know that you're mapping it to this income account. Unless you show them your profit and loss, very likely the profit and loss is only going to be saved for you, the management team, your accountant, and the banks if you're getting a loan. So all I can say is that sometimes these will mirror itself, and sometimes it'll just go into a generic category, like sales and such. So I hope I'm making sense here. The cool thing is if you change your mind and you want to fix it, you can always update historical ones that were mapped incorrectly. If you changed it, this is something new, but if we change it, it will give us a chance to go back and update all of them here. Okay, and the last thing I want to point out is if you're a business that creates purchase orders and you buy something first as part of your purchasing, then you turn it around and sell it to the customer. If you want to track that, you would need to do this. You would need to make it double-sided. And by double-sided, I mean it can go on accounts payable for bills you pay and money you accept, because the default is this item is only going to show up on an invoice. For an invoice is a customer payment to you, but QuickBooks also has bills, and that's when you pay the vendor. So if you want the same item to appear twice, you would say, I purchased this here, and then down below, you would link it to either a cost of goods sold account or purchases, just something like that to do that. Not everyone needs to have it on two sides. It's only if you're buying something and turning around and selling it to your customers where that comes into. So in this case, I don't need to double sided. I just want it to be money in, customers, consulting, good, save and close. All right, so that's an example, guys, of the products and services list. Okay, and what I'll do next is I'm going to talk about the vendor list and the customer list. I'm going to run two reports right off the bat. I'm going to go to reports, and I'm going to go down into the expenses and vendors right here. And I'd like to show you the vendor contact list report. So this gives us all the data, like a CRM, customer relationship management, of all of our vendors. Okay, it's just a flat list here, right here, with a detail to dive in. So if I wanted to jump into Computers by Jenny, I could click on this and it will take me to Computers by Jenny, and I would be able to see if there's anything associated with that. Looks like there's no activity here. I'm going to go back and try to find something that has something on it. There we go. just like that, I could see transactions to this vendor here. We go back to reports, show you a customer list real quick. Then I'll create two vendors, a vendor and a customer real quick. So I can see sales and customers. And I can see customer contact list is actually going to be in, oh, first one. If you find a report you love, make it a green star. And when you make it a green star, they'll appear up here in the favorites up here. Okay. All right, here we go. How about this, guys? This is our customer contact list right there. And if I wanted to check in on cool cars, I click on cool cars, and then it drills me down into what's happening with cool cars here. It shows an invoice and a couple of payments on that. So pretty cool. All right, let's create a vendor, and then I'll create a customer. I'm going to go back to expenses. So here's our navigation bar on the left hand. I should mention that if you don't see it, it can get invisible by just clicking on this hamburger button, they call it. Expenses, vendors. All right. When you land on the vendor section, you see an opportunity here to actually see, okay, oh, I got 5 open bills here. And so these are all my vendors, but if I want to see those 5 vendors, I can click on 5 open bills and I can see all of these vendors are open. Okay. Let me create a new vendor. I'm going to select new vendor. See, there's a theme here. Anytime you want to create a chart account, a product, customer, a vendor, you just click new in the upper right hand side. And QuickBooks is a database, so QuickBooks keeps track of things in different areas, like the vendor list is everybody that you are paying. Okay, now let's imagine that this vendor is actually somebody I'm contract labor, and I'm going to send them a 1099 at the end of the year. So they're not a W-2 employee. They work on their own. We give them jobs. They work on their own. They use their tools. They use their computers. They get the job done, but they use their requirements to do that. So not a W-2 worker. That would be a vendor. So for a vendor, what's required is a first and last name. You would get their W-9, all right? And after you get their W-9, there would be a street address. There would be city, state, zip. Okay. You could put notes, W-2, W-9 contractor. You would attach their W-9 here. Okay. And so what is a W-9? A W-9 is somebody that you're hiring as contract work in the US. If you pay them more than $600, and then at the end of the year, you would report that on a 1099 NEC, non-employee compensation. You attach their the W-9 here, which they sign their address and their social security number. And when they give you their social security number, you just put it here. That way, I have the 2 dashes here. That way, come at the end of the year, QuickBooks can help you send out the 1099s for you. There is an extra charge. It's $15 for your first 3. And then as you need more, it's a couple bucks per extra 1099. But they'll mail it to it, and you don't have to go out to Office Depot to buy the paper. And it's pretty cool. So this is how to set up a vendor that actually has a 1099, so then you would need to track that. Hit save. Okay. So if I wanted to pay John Doe his first $500 check or whatever, something like that, then I could create a bill. So I would go to John Doe. I would create a bill. So a bill and an invoice, make sure we're clear about this. What's the difference between an invoice and a bill? An invoice is money coming in from a customer, money in, and a bill is money out in QuickBooks. Okay, it's just terminology, just that's what the software uses. Even though our everyday language with accounting will say invoice me this, bill me this, just make sure a bill is money out, always 100% money out, and everything under vendors goes with a vendor payable. Everything under customers goes with money in. Okay, so, I would set this up as like contract, subcontractor. I don't know if we have in this account here, something that you would track and be very consistent on it. 500 here. John Doe. Okay. So right here, this is new. Pay any vendor with a bank transfer or debit card for free. Okay. There we go. Now, in order to take advantage of that service, this is what I was talking about when we were talking about the Melio deal. Remember this one right here? You have to be on Essentials to do this. You will not be able to do it on the Simple Start. Okay. So you got to be on the higher versions of that. And then you create the bill, and then you schedule the bill payment forward out here. And this being a demo account, I can't do it, so I'll just stop here. But you can enter a bill number here. You could attach any source documents here. So if John Doe invoiced us, I can attach his invoice here, put a memo here. Pretty awesome. I'll just save it. And at this point here, later down the road, we could schedule. And what will happen is you get a calendar pop up, and you get to choose the date that you would like to have the money go out of the thing. Okay. All right. So I mentioned I was going to show you how to create a vendor. I've done that. Now I'm going to mention how to create a customer. So I'm going to go over to the left and go to the Sales tab. Click Customers. So it's like the vendor list. I can see that I've got 20 unpaid invoices here. So if I click on the 20 here, these are all the customers that represent. So 55 Twin Lane has 2 open invoices. Yeah. All right, let me create a new customer. So see the pattern here, new customer here. All right, let's just call it Alpha Omega LLC. That's all we need. We could come back later and put in any of the details you want here. I'm going to put a note here that says requested proposal ASAP. And it's a little bit different what we can store in QuickBooks. You can store credit card information on them. You can create a QuickBooks merchant account and actually have invoices that you send out to your customers. They can pay online with them entering in their bank information. There are fees for that, but it certainly does take care of not having to deal with paper checks and the hassle of trying to deposit paper checks. So some folks like that feature, it's really handy. So I'm just going to hit save. All right. So here I'm in Alpha Omega. Here's the list of all of my customers. And see, I can just kind of click through them here. So if I wanted to create an estimate, a proposal, so QuickBooks uses the term estimate. See how we have estimate, even though we can change the form to say proposal. There's a lot of customizations here. So let's imagine I wanted to create my proposal to Alpha Omega for today. I would just come here, new transactions, estimate. We'll do some consulting. If I had an email here, like example at something like that, that would pull in. I could save it, and I could actually email the estimate out to the customer here. And once I send it, they receive it, and then they come back and say, yes, let's do it. Then notice it's pending. I could say, yeah, they did it. They accepted it. You know, I could say, I don't know, Steve accepted it today. Yep. Save that. And that now it's been accepted. Now it's just a matter of our team, whoever's doing that bookkeeping, to convert that into a real invoice, because an estimate is non-posting. Non-posting just means it won't hit your books until you convert it to an accounts receivable. And accounts receivable is by clicking here, create invoice. Now, there is special ways to split out an invoice into two. And if you want to learn how to do that, I can show you at the end of our session here, but the default is it converts 100% of it. But if you got a big estimate, like you're an architectural firm and you send out $20,000 estimate, probably aren't going to invoice $20,000 right on the spot. You could do like 20% first, and then when the project goes through another milestone, you go back and you can convert another 50%, and then you can convert it the final one when it's done. So that's cool. You have opportunities of splitting up an estimate into multiple things. And I do have a YouTube video on that. It's called Progress Invoicing. You can check out if that's something that you'll need to do. Just noticing here that it put it as tax. Wasn't aware of that, but that's going to be super important. If you have tax and you have QuickBooks Online, it's going to actually look at your location, use that as the default location. There's a lot to talk about with sales tax, but trust me, just make sure, do you talk to the Texas Comptroller? They've got teams of people that can help you decide if you need to charge sales tax to your customers. And when your customers pay the sales tax, it creates a liability in your books, and then you pay it and it closes it out. So you're on the hook of holding that money for either 1 month, 3 months, or 1 year, depending on how much sales you do. And there's certain thresholds where the more sales tax you collect, you get bumped up into having to remit that every month. But if you're a small seller in the beginning, you might just be every 3 months. But at any case, I recommend taking that sales tax you collect from the customer and putting it in a parking lot area where you don't touch it. You can't touch it. It's not your money. And then when it comes time to reporting it, you'll have a great report in QuickBooks that shows, hey, I had X sales, I had Y sales tax collected. Now I'm going to give it to the comptroller who, on behalf of the customers. Right? Yeah. And again, you never pay sales tax, your customers do. It's all right. Save, you can email that out. You can email that out to folks here. And I'm just actually going to do my email real quick to show you a neat feature. How it shows if they've read it or not. Oh, I forgot. It's a sample coming. Shoot. But if I had opened it, what will be cool is down here. First, it tells you when you sent it, but down here, it starts to show you the time that it was opened up. So if you don't see anything down here, that means nobody opened up your invoice. But when you start to see, open it up, view this line, I mean, if you start to see it hammered, somebody's aggressively been clicking on it, opening it, and it's a great way to see if they got it or not, basically, is what I'm trying to say here. Up here, we do not have credit card payment processing, but if you do have a credit card payment with QuickBooks, you'll have a checkbox that says, I accept credit card payments and bank transfers up here. You just want to make sure that those are turned on before you send it. Otherwise, they'll get the invoice and they'll have no pay button. There'll be a payment button that you can get in there. And also the save and share link as well. This also can be texted to somebody, and then you get that into whatever form. They click on it with their phone or whatever, and they'll have a chance to pay the invoice right there on the spot. All right, so hey guys, that's how to create a vendor, how to create a customer, and I hope everyone that made sense to everyone there. Now, the fun stuff. I'm going to share with you bank feeds. One of the most powerful things you can do is link your bank account. The way you would do that is through banking. And I do want to call your attention, if you're actually in your own QuickBooks Online account on the left and you don't see banking, you might see transactions. It's because there's two different views. So on the gear icon, it will tell you what view you're looking at. So I'm in the accountant view right now, but there's also business view. So I'm going to show you the business view real quick. Here's the, I'll skip for now. So, okay. So my preference is not this view. I'm so used to running it in the other one, but you see on the left-hand side, it says transactions right here. There's just, it's just kind of different, right? All I can say is it's different. I already mentioned I prefer the other one, so I'm going to go back into the other one, switch to accountant view. The reason why I like the accountant view is it shows you the bank balance and your QuickBooks balance in one shot. I think it's so much easier to read here. I love to see, oh, bank balance -3, oh, compared to what's in QuickBooks. All right. So again, these are fake accounts here, so it's just how it is. But if I'm flying an airplane, I want to know how much gasoline I have in the plane, right? This is kind of like your gas tank up here. Savings $200 is the bank balance. But notice down below, these numbers here, these are the numbers that are truly posting. If I run any financial reports, like if I were to run the balance sheet, the number that it would show is here in the report. I'm trying to share with you real quick. I guess I'm looking at another page here. Sorry, guys. Let me just run a quick balance sheet. Quick reports, balance sheet. As of May 18th, do you see how it says that according to QuickBooks, we have $800 in the savings account? Okay. But when we go back to banking, it says $200. So there's something missing, right? There's something that's missing. Could be a $600 transfer that's pending. We haven't yet put it in QuickBooks, that kind of thing. Okay. All right. So bank feeds, what are they? Okay, they've revolutionized how bookkeepers do work. So every bank pretty much participates in sharing the data through a secured API, which basically means that the bank can talk to QuickBooks Intuit. Intuit's a publicly traded company, and all of your banks, credit unions, and credit cards and bank accounts, they have ways that the computers talk and share information through financial transactions that communicate the date of the transaction, the dollar amount, whether it's US dollars or converted from another currency. And it comes up through the user, us. We have the ability to log into our phones and our computers and see banking transactions anytime, right? As long as you have internet. So what will happen is, as a QuickBooks Online user, you have the ability to search for your banks and put in your username and password to bring it in. Okay, and when I say bring it in, it means that it's going to show them transactions. Okay, did you know you can even do this in Microsoft Excel? And Microsoft Excel has money in Excel if you're on the newer version of Excel, and your bank information will show up on a spreadsheet. Go to sleep, wake up, hit refresh, whatever wasn't connected the day before, now you got transactions populating here. So once you connect, then it's your job to make sure that the money transactions are recorded in the right bucket. Are they income? Are they expenses? Is this one a payroll? You know, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. All right, so the first step you would do is you would click link account right here. And anybody who's ever set up a QuickBooks Online account, you know that when you go through that wizard to set it up, you know that they are going to ask you to link account like right away. It's hard not to see this. They make their best to see it. So it's PayPal is another one. If you've got a PayPal business account, you want to link that. Okay, and so you just search for us, and then once you click on it, then you'll be asked for the primary admin access, and you'll need your phone ready to get this two-factor authentication. So there are security issues. Well, you just can't. Not everybody can do this. You have to have your security code sent to you, and there's definitely there is risk of anything technology, but the risk of not doing this also means that you're going to have to manually type everything in. I don't know if you want to do that. It's not as powerful as connecting it here. Well, once you get it connected, right? The most important thing when you connect it, it's going to ask you what day do you want to start importing. So if you're a brand new business, you want to start with when the bank account is open. If you've been in business for a long time, it won't bring in 10 years of data. So you choose a date. Typically the first of the year is typically a standard practice, but you'll have to think about what's the time frame you want to. You want to bring in stuff that's up to the last reconciliation as well. All right, let me explain what's going on here. So if we look at the MasterCard, it says that we have 7 transactions for review. See how I'm in the for review? I can click on categorize. Nothing's been categorized yet. So let me categorize something. Laura's lamentation. Okay, so I'm going to click on, anytime I click on this row, I don't want to click add yet. I want to just click, and I want to show you, I can see the bank detail that would show up on that credit card. Okay, Laura's lamentation business card. So maybe this $150 was to buy business cards. So I have the ability to type business cards in the memo. I have the ability to attach a receipt here. These are 2 optional things. But the most important thing to do is where it says category. This is required. QuickBooks is going to suggest things, and sometimes it's dead wrong. Okay, but the more you start coding them, the more it starts to see your behavior. And so therefore, if we have Laura's lamentations in this account 20 times, and the first 19 times you chose advertising marketing, on the 20th time, it's going to suggest advertising marketing, right? So step 1 would be, who are you paying? I'm paying Laura's. I don't see Laura's in here, so I'll just type I'll just create a new vendor. So you can type a new vendor. The details would allow me to see all of that, what I showed you before. You can always go back to later, but I'll just save it as Laura's. Save. Okay, and now I have the ability to choose the correct expense. So, advertising would be fine. It's not linked to a customer. It's not billable. I don't want this to show up on an invoice. That's what that button would be. All right. So $150, May 17th, yesterday. I'm going to hit add. And ta-da, I have created my first transaction with just a couple of clicks with my mouse. Literally, I did have to type something because Laura was in there, but the next time Laura comes in there, it should see Laura's lamentation and already have it preset for that. Okay, well, what about all these other guys that say match? So sometimes you would match, and it's great feeling to match. And what match means is that the transaction is already in your general ledger. Then it shows up and you're confirming that it's in there. So I'm going to match a few now. All right. So if I click on Bob's Burger, there was a credit card expense here for $18.97. It means it already exists. I can just click match. How do I know it already exists? Well, I'll show you. I'll go to the chart of accounts and we're going to look at the MasterCard. I can just type MasterCard. This means it's connected to the bank feeds. And I'm going to go inside the register and look for that Bob's Burger. You guys see it? Looks like right here. Bought lunch for crew 102, $18.97 on 4/27. Okay. How did they create this? They went to Plus New and they clicked expense. Okay. And they typed Bob's Burger Joint. They made sure it was on the MasterCard. They put the date, let's say 4/6, and then whatever the meals were. Can't quite recall what that was. You might have a crew meals or something like that, and they put the dollar amount here. That's how you save an expense. Save. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go back to banking. And I can see, I open it up, I can see credit card expense 427 matches. And I'll click match here. So I'll go to this is a shortcut to the register right here. I like to use that quite a bit. It's a lot faster than going chart of accounts to get to it. Okay, so you guys take a quick look at this here and see what do you observe here? What I want you guys to observe here is these guys right here, the C's, the ones. I want you guys to observe this right here. Okay, every transaction can be reconciled or not reconciled. Okay, reconciled is the process of confirming that it matches the bank statement. When you match or add from the bank feeds, it comes in with a C. C means cleared, tentatively reconciled. Okay, so at the end of the day, you want to have all these that say R, and all that good stuff. And the way you do that would be taking time to reconcile each month when you get it. And I'll show you that in a second here, but all I want you guys to see right now is the green means that it came in from the bank feeds, okay? And I can come up, open up this guy right here, edit, and I can see that we matched it from the bank feeds. That one that I did for 50 bucks here, if that was a mistake or we had a duplicate, we're eventually going to delete this. And so I'm going to imagine that this was a complete typo mistake. This did not happen. I need to delete this. So I'm going to go to more. All right, there's two options here. Void would zero it out, and delete, it will make it gone for good. Okay, so depending on your permissions and who you are within the company, you could choose to void, zeroes it out, but leaves it here to return it. Delete means mistake. Since I just made it as a mistake, I'll delete it. Now it's going to show up that Steve Chase deleted that. Everything that gets deleted gets shown. It's in the audit log. If you go to the gear icon and click audit log, it will show everything that has happened in it. Okay, so I'm just going to do, I could go into show only these events. There we go. Now technically I'm Craig, but Craig deleted this expense for 50 bucks right here. So it's pretty powerful that it keeps a running tally for 7 years. The audit log is 7 years of transactions that were created, modified, justified, all that. Okay. All right. So I hope that was helpful on the bank feeds. Link it. It is an experience of learning it, but the best measurement to know if you're doing the bank feeds correctly would be at the end of each month, you reconcile, okay? So when I go to the gear icon, I have the ability to click reconcile. And I get my bank statement out. Bank statement out, okay? Open my statement, look at it, and I would just say, okay, we're ready to do it, okay? Now I know not everyone loves to do this, right? I probably don't have a lot of folks out there that are jumping at the bit to do this, but it is important that you do it, all right? And so how do you do it? You first select the account. So imagine that I opened up that Frost Bank account and I put $5,000 in it. And there's only one transaction last month. So I had a beginning balance of 0. I had an ending balance of 5,000, and my statement was April 30th, okay? So I'm on track if I can see a $5,000 deposit in there. I'm gonna hit start reconciling, and I don't see it, okay? So that means I can't reconcile until I figure out where did that $5,000 go. So the first thing I'll do is I'll click here and look for $5,000. There's a deposit for $5,000. Maybe that's it. Okay. And if that was, there's a mistake. It should have gone into the Frost account, and it should have been on, let's say, 4/15/2022. Okay. And I'll save and close it. All right. Now I can see it. And I now need to click this. And now I can see that my ending balance is 5,000. I've cleared 5,000. One deposit for 5,000. That's awesome. I am ready to reconcile. So I can hit finish now. And I've reconciled that account. And if you do that when you're small, it's a lot easier than if you try to do it 3 years down the road and you're big and you've never done it. It's going to be a lot easier to start that process out. And so you want to do that, okay? And then see how it is ready to go. When I get my May statement from Frost, it's going to have a beginning balance of 5,000. I'll type the new balance in. Let's imagine it's 6,500. And then 531, which of course we wouldn't be able to reconcile now because it's not out yet. But then you start and then you do the same thing. As the accounts grow, you'll have more transactions, money in, money out. They need to kind of get in there. And so when you do all that, guys, you'll have trusted reports, okay, which is our last agenda item. All right, how to trust your reports. Okay, so first of all, QuickBooks has 2 ways to do reports: cash or accrual. And it's super important you know the difference between the 2. I'm going to run a cash and accrual report right now. And I go to reports, and I'm going to do profit and loss. Okay, so let's just kind of, for simplicity here, let's just do income. $11,200.27 right here, okay? And the next thing you got to look at is, when was it? January 1st to May 18th, 2022. So I don't know if you can see all the way up here at the top, it says accrual. All right, well, that means that what's included in that invoice is the invoice to Alpha Omega for $1,000. They didn't pay yet. You saw me create an invoice for $1,000. It's not been paid. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to accrue or cash. Hit run report and see. Oh, that's a different story. Only 5,000. Okay, so what's the difference between cash and accrual? So basically, cash Revenue is reported only when it's received. Expenses are only recorded when the cash is paid out. So the $500 to John Doe is not going to show up on the cash report for money out. And the $1,000 invoice we created to Alpha Omega, it's not going to show up in cash, but it would show up in accrual, because accrual is recorded when goods or services are invoiced and customers are expected to pay later. Expenses are recorded as bills prior to paying suppliers for those goods and services. That's the key difference here. And as a manager of the business, you want to have a good eyes on both measurements here. So what's the difference between income? So we had about some money that wasn't paid. Well, the difference is going to show up on the accounts receivable section. Okay, so on the accounts receivable, I'm going to go to reports, accounts receivable aging summary. That's the difference. That's our total difference here. Okay. And so I can see $1,000 Alpha Omega is current. And then these numbers here just kind of sliding through. So Amy's Bird is late. It falls in between the 1 to 30 day late. The one that's really slipping is Red Rock Dinner, has an invoice that is between 61 and 90 days late. So at any time I could click on it. I could see that's back in February 12th, hasn't been paid. Click on it again. All right, I can see it never got emailed out. Maybe that was a mistake. Maybe we're supposed to send it out, but never did, because I don't see a timestamp here so that I could do something with it. Yeah. There we go. All right, so on the back to the profit and loss. What's really cool is you can see, I'll do accrual. You can split it up by months. What was my highest month of revenue? Well, look here, we've got right here, 391, 521, 2417, 6871. So that's really cool. You're starting to see, okay, January was this much. And all of this is just basically how they broke it up. You could have a very simple one. It's just one row, sales. Keep it as easy as possible, but they've really broken it out here. Yeah. All right, Daniel, I'm gonna turn over for questions now, because I don't want to keep folks late here, but how best should we do questions?
If you guys want to raise, you can raise your hand
There
if
we
you have
go.
a question,
Yeah, there we go.
or unmute.
Any questions? Yeah, unmute.
Hey, Steve, this
Yes.
is Robert.
Hi, Robert.
Hey, I've got a business that's mostly farmers market. So I'm doing a lot of stuff through Square. How does Square integrate, or does it integrate with QuickBooks?
It can integrate. There's two options you can integrate. One, you're going to go to the banking, and whatever your Square account comes into, you'll see Square, $55, Square 200. You'll have lots of Square in the bank feeds. And so one option would be to, when Square deposits come in, since there's a lot of point of sale, you could just call it sales and create a Square group customer, because it's going to be more than one customer at one time. So customer called Square group customer, and every time you see Square hit your deposits, you would just come up with whatever you call it, sales, and add it. But then at the end of the year, it's going to be less fees. So it'll be about 3% that they hold. So there kind of is a true up at the end of the year with your accountant that would say, so if you had $97,000 come into your bank account, the true sales would be 100,000. We would need to create a 3% adjustment to Square fees to true up the net. That's one option. And that works well if the simplest way. The other option, and it depends on how many customers you have, but there is a Square app that you can connect to. And that's a little bit more detailed, and you want to be very cautious if you want to do it, but there's a Connect Square app. And be cautious on trying to connect that app because it cannot do exactly what you want it to do. But the point of that is it's going to bring in sales receipts for everyone and it have more detail in there. And I'm not against it. It's just you got to think about you want to try that out. So that's the other option is you can link to connect to Square to import your sales from that to your QuickBooks account. But it requires some more effort than that.
Thank you.
So
That's a good
you're
answer.
okay. I'm going to work on trying to get the link to the PowerPoint to share out, but certainly I know there's a lot to QuickBooks. The key is you can't learn it all in one day. Don't try to learn it all in one day, but give yourself opportunities to invest in yourself. And investing in learning something new, this is an important skill to have. Someone on your team should have it.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. And we'll share the recording and we'll share the presentation and also the link to Steve's channel. It's YouTube, right?
Yeah.
That way you guys can watch some more videos on this. You guys can also drop in the chat. I can read off the questions. If you have any questions at this time or on mute.
I just posted a link to the PowerPoint.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, how can people reach you if they have something they want to talk to you about? Like, what's the best way? Is it through YouTube, email?
Email is the easiest way. Yeah.
Email?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I can also share that information with the group. And if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to Steve or to us for any other business needs. I'm going to stop the recording right now.